Hello, my name is Manny. I am your host today for the podcast of the Inca. I don't know what episode this is, but today we are joined by Olivia, former Olympian, electric. Very excited to have her on the podcast. So just introduce yourself.
Hello, podcast viewers. My name is Olivia Lundman, and as Manny said, I am an Olympic race walker, also a student at UBC, and yeah, I'm excited to chat with you guys.
Yeah, so me and Olivia met. She was actually bugging me for months to go out to a Bible group session, and eventually I caved in and I was like, okay, I'll go.
People call me very persistent.
Yes, and I'm glad you were. It was a great experience. I wish I could keep going, but just my schedule's just not lining up.
Life of an engineer.
Yeah.
And an athlete, and an injured athlete.
Yeah, that's why it actually aligned, because I got injured, so I didn't have to go to practice, so then I could go.
I'm not gonna hope that happens again. So.
Well, I did start I'm trying to start my own Bible group.
Right.
That works with my schedule, but yeah, not a lot of people are free on Sunday afternoons.
I mean, even if it starts with one person, you just grow it from there.
Well, I'm gonna keep trying. Yeah, and I talked to Caleb, and he's trying to get more people at the church. So I'm gonna try to work with him on that.
Yes.
Yeah. So, anyways, actually, we were just talking about blunders on editing, hey? I'm just gonna tell the audience real quick. I don't recall quite which one it was, but on one of my episodes, I didn't edit it, and the screen is sideways. So I just thought that was really funny. And you were saying you did something about
Yeah, I have a mental health initiative, and so I post like interviews on my Instagram page called Beneath the Surface. And on my last one, I messed up the formatting on Zoom, because I do it on Zoom and then just hit record. And normally the screens are side by side, but for this one, I had it on speaker view from a speaker event that I was doing, and it was too late into it when I realized, and so I just went with it. But now in the recording, it just keeps on flipping back and forth between our faces on the screen, and the audio doesn't line up. But it's fine. People can just watch it with their eyes closed.
Yeah, that's electric. So you're an Olympian. That is amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you. That's.
So yeah, just walk us through, like, from day one. How did this happen?
Well, day one, I was not walking or talking. No. So I started race walking when I was 10 years old, because I joined my local track and field club because in Nanaimo.
Okay.
When I was 10 years old, because I played soccer. I started playing soccer when I was 5. Loved to run, super fast, running all around the place. And one of the soccer parents suggested that my parents enroll me in the track and field club. And so they asked me if I was interested. I loved playing trying things that were new, so I was like, sure. And so each year I got to try different events, and one practice, one of my friends came up to me and was like, hey, I'm going to the race walk practice. Do you want to come? And I was like, I've never done this before, but sure. And so went over with them, and the coach told us to go do a lap, and so my friend kind of showed me how to do it, and so I just copied them. We did a lap, and then the coach came up to me and was like, you're natural, like, have you come before? I was like, no, this is my first time. Anyways, just kept on doing it every now and then. At track meets on the weekends, I do like 10 events, so I've competed in every single track event there is.
Sorry, a quick question.
Yes.
If you weren't an Olympic race walker, what other event would you have gone for?
So my second event was pole vault.
Okay.
So that was when I narrowed my focus, because I couldn't keep on doing 10 events, unfortunately. And so when I had to specialize, I narrowed it down eventually to race walk and pole vault. Natural combo, of course. And so yeah, pole vault I really just enjoyed, but then COVID hit, and apparently if you land on a mat and then someone else lands on a mat, you can transfer COVID. Not sure about the exact science behind it, but we weren't allowed to vault. And so fortunately I was able to keep on race walking, because I was just by myself. And then yeah, a couple months later I signed with UBC and came to UBC. Here we are. And then yeah, I just kept on training with the team here. It was the first time I was doing race walk year round. Normally I would do basketball, field hockey, soccer, cross country, and track and field. But unfortunately, I couldn't keep on doing that forever. And so yeah, I came to UBC, and that was the first time I started race walking year round, which was a bit of an adjustment, but I mean, fortunately, it's something I really love doing, and so it was neat to see how, now that I was focusing all my effort towards race walking, I was seeing lots of improvement. And so, yeah, just got to start racing, and I didn't really think, like, growing up, I thought I was a very practical child. I was like, okay, the Olympics, not many athletes go there. Looking at the odds, and like the odds of me making it to the Olympics are so slim. Like, probably not gonna happen, but that's fine. I'm just enjoy the sport, like compete internationally, maybe like represent Team Canada. That'd be fun. And that was kind of.
So you were really in it just for the love of the game.
That was just my attitude, and I mean, it's like some kids like from like 5 years old, they're like, I'm going to the Olympics. I'm going to the next like whoever. But I was like, no, like I was super practical. I was like, no, probably not gonna happen, because like what are the odds? But you know,
I just noticed that's a very common trend in just successful people in whatever sort of route they're on, if it's sports or if it's business or academics. If you're doing something that you're passionate about, you're bound to be successful.
Absolutely.
So was it a bit of a culture shock to you when you got here, that I'd imagine the majority of people on the UBC track team are very competitive and probably weren't doing this for leisure, they were just they wanted to win? Was that at all a culture shock for you?
I mean, I think UBC in general, even in like academics, are very competitive in everything you do, and so it was a bit of a shock just to, or I guess not necessarily a shock, I mean, I was kind of expecting it, but more of an adjustment just to be surrounded by these people that are always kind of comparing themselves to you and be like, oh, are you doing this? I'm doing this, and then you kind of get caught up in it and you feel like you should be doing more. But as for the track team, I mean, there's so many different training groups, and so different events and specialties, so you just train with your event. And so I just trained with the race walkers, and then like the throwers would train with the throwers, and so on. And so, I mean, I interacted with the other groups a bit, but I mean, they're not really competing against you, so it's a bit different. As for the race walkers, they were very welcoming. I mean, I think race walkers in general, it's a smaller community, and so you kind of have to like encourage and support each other. And so even when I go to international competitions, like even the people that I'm competing against, they're super friendly, encouraging. I mean, you want each other to do their best, that way they can push you to be your best.
Awesome. So when did you sort of get the call, like, for you to find out that you were being considered for the Olympics?
So with athletics, it's a bit different because it's not like you make a team and then the team is like the national team to go. Every international competition you have to qualify for. And so for the event I did, which was the mixed marathon race walk relay, there were 25 spots at the Olympics in that event. And so 22 were going to be filled from the qualifying race, and then 3 were going to be based on times throughout the rest of the season. Did
you get in time or?
No, so we got in by placing. Okay. So my teammate and I qualified to race at Worlds in Turkey in April, and then in Turkey, I think there were 76 teams there, and so we were trying to be one of the 22 teams qualified. And so we were the 21st out of 22 teams qualified.
That's electric.
And I was the last, because I was the second leg, so I was the finisher.
So you knew going into that race that if you were the top 22 teams that you were going to go to the Olympics.
Yeah. So
what was going through your head because you finished the race?
Yeah. So going into the race, we knew that like we were kind of the underdogs. We knew that we weren't the favorites. That if
up the leaves.
We knew that if we made it, it was going to be one of those last spots. And so we just said to each other, like, we're going to go into this, we're going to give it our best shot, like, leave it all out there, and if we make it, we make it. If we don't, like, we had fun trying. And so that's that. And I mean, at that point, I still was like, we're probably not going to make it, right? Like, this is still a long shot. And so, yeah, went into it. He did his first leg, and then I did mine, and then he did his second, and then handed it off to me, and I think it was a 10 kilometer or 10.8 or something to finish. And going out for the second leg is hard because you've already done your first one and you're tired, and then you have to go again. But I was just, driven by, we might be able to make it to the Olympics. And yeah, on the last, it was like the last 300 meters, and during like the last lap, I had no idea what place we were in. I had no idea if we were like in by like 5 teams or if we were like had no chance of making it at that point. And with like 300 meters to go, I started throwing up, and I was like I was like, no, I need to get to the finish line, because I was terrified that people were gonna pass me at that point.
Do you gotta look behind you, or are you just locked?
No, I didn't look behind me, but I was just like, there were people around me, but like there's people who had been lapped and stuff too, so there's people around. But I was just terrified that I was gonna get passed by someone and that we'd get like bumped out by like 1 spot or something. Anyways, just like that last 300 meters seemed so long, but I made it to the finish line, and I remember I like collapsed across the finish line, and my partner like put me in a wheelchair and was like wheeled me back to the team tent, and I just remember saying like do we make it? And like after the fact, he said I probably should have like told you that we made it, and for like right away, instead of just like, he's like, I was just focusing on making sure you were okay. But I realize now that I kind of left you just wondering for a while.
That's tragic.
And,
so he already knew.
He was like pretty sure, because they were like doing the calculations. And so we're back in the team tent, and they're like, I'm pretty sure we're the 21st team. But I was like, that's pretty close. I was like, I'm like pretty sure isn't good enough, and I didn't want to get my hopes up, because I didn't want to then find out we didn't make it and then be crushed. So I was like, I remember sitting on like the massage table in the team tent, just like waiting, just being like, this is, I don't know how to feel. And then one of the officials came over and congratulated us, and I was like, this is real. Whoa. And it still didn't sink in for like months.
Oh, okay.
But, and then.
When did it sink in?
When I was in Paris. I don't know.
Oh, really?
It still just felt very surreal. Like for the longest time, I was like that night, it just kept on hitting me. I was like, I'm going to the Olympics. And then I would just like forget about it, like be at dinner or something, and I just like I'd be like, I'm going to the Olympics, and it would just kept on hitting me. I was like, whoa, it didn't feel real.
I remember in one of the Bible study sessions I attended, you were speaking about I forget who or from where, but someone was telling you something about the imposter syndrome. Do you recall?
Yeah.
You want to share?
Yeah. So when I got to the Olympics, I was one of the youngest on the track and field team, and I was surrounded by these athletes that this is like their 3rd, 4th Olympics, and like they're the athletes that I grew up like looking up to in the track and field world. And so I definitely felt some imposter syndrome, just feeling like I didn't belong there, and that, you know, I wasn't good enough, and that there's all these amazing athletes there, so like what am I doing there? And I mean, I think it was humanizing to get to meet those athletes and just chat with them and realize that they're just humans, just like you and me, same people. It's just because they're, you know, professionals or Olympians, it doesn't make them any different. At the end of the day, they're still humans. And then for me, it was just a bit of a struggle to figure out like what the purpose of being at the Olympics was for me, and how that fit into like God's plan for me, and how he was going to use that. And so even like when I was there, I was trying to figure out like how it worked into my journey. I was like, I felt a bit uncomfortable like sharing my faith with other, like the older athletes on the team, because like some of them were like could have been my mom or dad, so it just like the dynamic felt a bit odd. But I was fortunate enough to be a part of a video series that Athletes in Action did in May before I left. And so myself and 4 other athletes from across the world did 3 videos each, 3 minutes each, just talking about our sport and our journey and our faith, overcoming adversity, stuff like that. And at the Olympics, the chaplains with Athletes in Action all had little QR codes on their lanyards that you could scan, and then it would bring you to the videos, you could watch the videos, and then it would bring you to the YouVersion Bible app, and then you could read the gospel presentation, and then there was a survey, and you could select if you gave your life to Christ, or if you want mentorship. And after the games, Rod, who's the Athletes in Action leader, and myself got an email from the video organizer and said that the videos were viewed by 26 million people.
Wow.
I was blown away, and that 600,000 people gave their life to Christ, and 72,000, I think, asked for mentorship, which that really just hit me. I was like, okay, this is at least like this is making sense now. Like I can start to see like the purpose to that. And then I was fortunate enough to be involved in the CFL Grey Cup Pro Week and got to go alongside some other professional athletes and speak at prisons and youth shelters and recovery houses, and just share my story. And looking back and realizing that this all wouldn't have happened if I wasn't at the Olympics. And so sometimes you're in a situation and you don't know what the purpose is to it, but it's easier to look back. In hindsight, you're like, okay, I see it now. I mean, sometimes like that might not be for years, decades, who knows, but yeah.
So speaking about your story, I'm just curious about learning. Was there a singular challenge you can look in hindsight and say, this was difficult to overcome, or maybe it was like multiple little ones that was hard? And if so, how did you overcome it?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely been lots of challenges. I think as like any student athlete, it's difficult to balance school and training, and I mean, I've been fortunate to not have suffered any major injuries. Just no, that's not directed at you. Mainly just minor ones, but I think one of the biggest struggles for me during this last few years or build up, I guess, to Olympics was probably more my mental health rather than my physical health. I found that coming to UBC, there was just a lot of people and just struggled a lot to kind of find where I fit in. And first year, it probably didn't help that I spent all my time focusing on my schoolwork and focusing on my training and didn't really do anything social related. And so that was tough. So second year, I went all gung-ho. I was like, I'm not gonna stress about my schoolwork. I'm gonna invest in all these friendships. It's gonna be great.
Art students.
And that lasted a couple months, and then midterm season hit, and I kind of fell back down into the spiral of, oh my goodness, I'm gonna fail this exam. I'm gonna fail this class. I'm gonna lose my scholarship. I'm going to just everything's gonna end with this one exam. Or midterm even, it wasn't even an exam, probably worth 12, 20%, I don't know. And so I was just back into that darkness and found that I was really struggling again. And I mean, it reached the point where I didn't want to have to see the next day and face those exams. And that was a low point, and it was a scary spot I ended up in, but I think it's through those low points that you then learn the strength you have, and you learn to rely on others because you can't rely on yourself anymore. And so I mean, God brought me out of that, and I don't stress as much about things. And I mean, a couple months later, I think that was 2 months after that is when I met Rod with Athletes in Action, and he came to campus and put me in this kind of leadership role to reach out to athletes and bring them in to our group. And I mean, as a socially anxious introvert, that was quite the notion. I was like, I have to do what now? But I mean, I felt God calling me to step out of that comfort zone, and so I did, and we kind of slowly formed this group. And I just found my passion in bringing others into community, and I didn't want them to have to go through what I went through. And so I've just found gathering people, letting them know the different supports that are out there, helping bring them into churches or a Christian community, and just checking in on people and making sure that they know that there's someone there for them. And so then I mean, a year after that, I was speaking at chapel in front of 500 people, which again, if you told me that in first year, I've been like, no way. So it's pretty cool to see how your whole life can transform. And I mean, now I'm planning to go into ministry, which again, first, second year, I probably would have been like, what? No, what? Huh? That would have never crossed my mind. So you can transform your life.
That reminded me, this morning I was reading a book, and that reminded me of a quote. So I just want to hear your take on it. Okay.
Okay.
Goodness is viewed with skepticism because virtuous people are thought to be boring. It seems that fun activities could be defined as necessary elements of a life well lived. A life without these would be strangely barren. is it better to be good but boring, or bad but exciting?
I mean, I don't think it's necessarily true.
Okay.
Like, I think you could be good and exciting and bad and boring. I don't think it needs to be one or the other. Like, there's a difference between, like I feel like a lot of times people label people like the goody two shoes. It's always like following the rules, doing this and doing that. But I think there are things that you can do that don't necessarily need to be bad. Like, there's still like righteous fun and enjoyment. And I mean, like, God hasn't called us to, just like be rule followers that walk in a line. Like, he wants us to enjoy things, to have fun. Like, he created so many things for us to enjoy and to have fun with, and he wants us to interact with one another and have friendships. And so, yeah, I mean, obviously you shouldn't spend all night playing video games or going to ragers. I don't think that's the message here.
Do you think it's better to be a overskilled 30-year-old but underlived 20-year-old, or an overlived 30-year-old but underskilled?
Define overlived. Like,
are you mean like life
experience?
Yeah, as in like you enjoyed your 20s. Like you didn't really think too much about your responsibilities, but you went out and you did everything that excites you.
That is a tough one. Because I feel like there's two sides to that. Like, because I mean, yeah, having fun is all fine and dandy until you realize that you have no prospects for like a future career, and you still have a lot of life left ahead of you. And I mean, I think like we're called to use our gifts to serve others, and so I think that probably looks like developing our skills. And I mean, if you're only 30, you still have a lot of life left ahead of you that you can go and like have those experiences. But I think even if you're living your life just seemingly mundane, but doing those things every day, spending time with even just like a couple close friends, doesn't need to be huge friend groups and parties and social gatherings every day, but you just have a couple close friends, and you're just doing good, honest work. Then you reach your 30s and you have like everything lined up. You've got your job, you've got your friend, you've got your community, you've got a good relationship with Christ, and then you have such a stable platform to move forward and build the rest of your life upon.
That's beautiful. So what I'm sensing here from the previous two questions is that you value balance a lot. Is this right?
Yeah, I would say that's true.
That's good. I back that too. I want to backtrack a little bit.
Okay.
I forgot to ask this while you were speaking of it, but in that last 300 meters of the qualifiers in Turkey, what was going through your mind? Like, what were you telling yourself? Were you like being intentional with like saying a phrase or like recalling a memory?
Yeah, so my coach / teammate, he finished his racing. So he was on the other side of the fence, and he was with like 500 meters to go. He was like yelling at me, he's like, go, 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 like push it. And so I was trying to push it.
Is race walking down to a T, like to the second, or?
Not typically,
okay.
But just wanted me like go.
Yeah.
And at that point I had no idea like where we were. And so yeah, then I reached 300 to go and I was throwing up. And because I slowed down like a couple strides before, he's like, go, 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 go. And I stopped. He's like, okay. He's like, just get it out, get it out. I took like 3 more steps and then started like throwing up again.
On TV?
Oh, I've got a nice photo of it. Yeah.
No.
And then
tragic.
Just kept on, and then he's like, okay, go, go, go. Just like, I think he was yelling like, just like one foot in front of the other. And I was like, got back my speed. He's like, yeah, go, go, go. And apparently I was going pretty fast by the end. But it was just a blur. Like, honestly, it just seemed like the finish line seemed like I just wanted to get to the finish line. I was like, just make it to the finish line and then you're done. Just make it to the finish line. Don't let anyone pass you. And yeah, I just heard him yelling at me. I think there were a couple other people yelling at me. But I was just like, just make it to the finish line. Make it to the finish line. And I think in the back of my mind, I was like, are we gonna make it to the Olympics? Are we not? I don't know. Are we? Yeah. there's a lot going on.
That reminded me of a photo I saw. I'm about to compare you with Michael Phelps, by the way.
Okay,
There's
there's
a
worse
photo-
people to be compared to.
There's a photo of Michael Phelps swimming, and I don't know who's next to him, but in the other lane, there's a gentleman who's looking over at him, and they're both like mid stride, and the caption said, Michael Phelps, by the way, is looking like straight ahead, and the caption said, "Winners focus on winning, and losers focus on the people winning," and so that, like what you told me, reminded me of that, because I could imagine the vast majority of people in that situation, they would be like looking over their shoulder, like, am I gonna get past or not? But you were just dead.
I'm just making the finish line. There's only so much I can do. But also, I think it's mid-stroke, not mid-stride. You know, I think swimmers.
Did I say stride?
Yeah.
Oh, in my head I
It's
said
okay.
stride.
You're in like the race walk mindset.
Apologies. Yeah, I
appreciate
was. Got
There
too
you go.
confused.
There you go. But yeah, no, just very focused on that finish line, and everything around me was just a blur. Like, yeah, I heard like the one voice, and then I mean there was so much going on. Everybody was like eyes narrowed in on the finish line.
Totally random thought.
Okay.
You walked 20K this morning, right? Typically she walks 30K in the morning, which is unreal.
Not every day.
Not every day?
Once a week.
Oh, okay, once a week.
Otherwise, it's typically shorter.
How many? Feel free not to share if you're uncomfortable. But how many calories do you eat a day?
So I don't. It's funny. I actually got this question yesterday. I don't track calories or anything. So probably a lot.
Surely.
Yeah, quite a few. Lots of carbs are consumed.
How long does it take you to walk 20?
This morning, I think it was like an hour. 48. So. around
You
there.
walk faster than people run. That's incredible.
I get that a lot too.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as food, I just like make sure that my meals have like the necessary proteins and like carbs and stuff just to refuel. But other than that,
the macro ratio.
well, I just make not even that much. I just like, okay, do I have some carbs, some fat, some protein, and
Okay.
then that's.
Do you try to
okay.
eat like a certain amount of times per day, or?
Not really, because it depends on. I have like depending on my
So
class
Olympian.
schedule, and like some days I'll have like 2 or 3 workouts a day, and so it's like eat before, eat after, eat before, eat after, and so it'll be like roughly based around like breakfast, lunch, dinner, but then sometimes it'll be like.
So what's your gauge? Like, do you just eat when you're hungry, or do you have like an amount of protein that you're trying to hit a day, or just?
No, I mean, yeah, just mainly eat when I'm hungry, and then if it's like before workout or after workout, make sure I'm fueling adequately, and then, yeah, if it's like dinner, because sometimes like protein sources aren't necessarily super easy to digest, and so I can't eat a bunch of protein like right before a workout, and so sometimes it's dinner, and I'm going, okay, how much protein have I had today? And if it hasn't been a lot, then I'll just make sure to have a more protein-heavy dinner.
I've about hydration. I've talked to like a lot of athletes about it. How do you do it? Do you try to go for a certain amount, certain frequency, or do you go by the color you pee?
This is gonna be another.
You just free ball it?
Yeah, pretty much.
That's crazy. I would imagine
drink
the
water,
hydration would be huge for race walkers.
Yeah, I mean definitely like more so in the summer months. Making sure,
Electrolytes?
yeah, get some
Sure.
electrolytes in.
Sure.
And then hydration is like before races, I'm more cognizant of it. But yeah, throughout the week, yeah, just trying to make sure I don't find myself super thirsty at any point. Just trying to stay decently well hydrated. But I'm definitely not as good at it as some people are. Something I've always been a bit challenged with is just making sure to drink water throughout the day.
So you said you try to be keen on that before races. Does that start the morning of, the day before?
No, not morning of. Otherwise, you're gonna be like peeing the whole race. No, it's like the day before, sometimes even 2 days before.
Okay. And does that change? I mean, what's your take on sleep? Is it important all the time? Should you really dial in on it 3 days before?
I mean, sleep is always important. I'm someone that can't. Well, I can, but I don't enjoy functioning on little sleep, just because.
What's little for you? What's your threshold?
Okay. So I try and, like, my 7-day average, I try and get at least 7.5 hours for, like, a 7-day average. But I can do, like, a couple nights of, like, 5 to 6 hours, as long as I have some nights of, like, 8, 9 hours to balance it out. So, yeah, if I have, like, 2 days in a row of, like, 6 hours or less sleep, I'm going to be feeling it. And so, yeah, I just find that, like, it's hard to be, like, find the energy, and just everything seems worse when you're tired.
Yeah.
So just, like, it's like the world just looks so much brighter when you're well rested. It's like
That is so facts when you just wake up.
You just feel more like joyful, and you're like, oh, it's a beautiful day, even if it's like pouring rain outside.
Yeah. It is starting to be a pretty beautiful day, actually.
I know.
It started
it's supposed
pretty
to snow soon,
sadly.
apparently.
Oh, surely not. That's tragic.
That's what the weatherman says.
Okay, we have about 30 seconds left.
Okay.
I do want to ask you a quick though.
Okay.
You have a mental well-being project. Do you want to just talk about that?
Yeah. So I started it a couple years back when I just wanted to raise awareness for the fact that just because someone looks like they're doing fine on the outside, they're living this perfect life on social media, it looks like they've got like everything going for them, that they might actually be suffering beneath the surface. And so that's why I called it Beneath the Surface. And so yeah, I just wanted to normalize starting conversations and opening the dialogue about mental health, and yeah, just kind of shine the light on a bunch of different people who you might not assume might struggle, and so just kind of show that it's universal. It doesn't discriminate against anyone. Like, everyone can struggle with it.
And if someone right now is watching who is struggling, what would you say to them?
I'd say the big one is, like, on that note, you're not alone. I know that it's very isolating. I know that's something I felt, and so just knowing that you're not alone and that you're so deeply loved, even if, you know, it's hard to feel that and understand your worth and the love that people have for you and that God has for you. It's so real, and yeah, this world is better because you're in it. I know it's cliche, but it's true, and you don't know how bright your future could be. So yeah, reach out. It can be scary, but you're not alone in this.
So that's Rick. This was a pleasure.
Thank
you very much for being on the podcast. All right, signing out the Inca.